morning, folks. This is Deb Delapiana, and today we're going to talk about Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade is gone, okay? John Roberts can say whatever he wants about it was just a draft, a trial run, a preliminary position. But the fact of the matter is, whether people want to accept this fact or not, the Supreme Court was deliberately stacked to achieve this goal. So we have a Roe v. Wade group, and I hesitate to say I'm thrilled that, we've gone from 100 some odd members to 1,200 in a day once the decision was made public. But the fact of the matter is, we should have been doing this months ago, maybe even years ago. And I'll tell you why. Roe v. Wade became law in 1973, and almost from the moment it became law, the Christian right and the hardcore right-wingers in this country have been pushing for it to be overturned. Now, this is how long it has taken. It is now 2022. It is now 2022, and the next stop in this country is Gilead. Now, anybody who has watched The Handmaid's Tale knows what that reference is about. I don't know what it takes to convince people to understand that shit can happen here. The Germans thought that what happened in Nazi Germany could never happen either. And those who didn't fall for the right-wing rhetoric in Germany sat back and watched it happen. And we are in the same boat. The people are not blameless in all of this, okay? The only way politicians change things is when people drive them. And the right wing and the Christian right in this country, and please, I don't want to argue on the goddamn Facebook page that it's not fair to blame this on Christians. I'm not blaming every Christian in America. I am telling you that there has been a Christian, right-wing Christian movement active in politics for decades. Okay, when I worked for the Human Rights Campaign back in 1993, they were active then, and they had been active for decades. They don't pay taxes, but they do play politics. There are a number of people who have played politics. It is known that they find ways to donate to political candidates, churches, find their ways to do this. They organize from the pulpit. They're supposed to be saving your souls from the pulpit, but go to any right-wing fundamentalist Christian church and they will be telling you how to vote, okay? You need to understand this. This country, as it is set up, is driven by the people who want something. This is how we got Roe v. Wade. We got Roe v. Wade because the people who came before you fought for their rights. And now they're going to be taken away because the powers that be, who never wanted those rights to be codified in any kind of law, never stopped pushing for that. And this is what the left needs to learn from the right. Now, Roe v. Wade is only one thing that's in danger here in this country, because the way our laws are decided when it goes to a court situation is that there's this thing called precedence. There's this thing called what has been argued successfully can then be extrapolated and applied to something else. That's how the system works. That is especially how the legal system works in this country. People need to understand this, okay? So, what is it that we should be concerned about beyond this? Before we get into that, let's talk about what we need to do about Roe v. Wade. I'm absolutely positively convinced it's dead. And I want everyone to understand this. It took this long to have this happen. I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to overturn this overnight. We now have a 6-3 supermajority. None of these people are interested in voting on precedent. They are interested in voting on ideology, because that's the way this country rolls, okay? So whatever that draft is, that's going to be the final outcome, unless something drastic happens within the hallowed halls of the Supreme Court. But the people who are asserting that the leak was designed to besmirch the honor of the court has already besmirched its own honor a number of times. So, that's a fake argument. What do you have to do to survive Roe v. Wade? Well, first of all, you can't live anywhere below the Mason-Dixon line or throughout parts of the Midwest. You're going to have to start thinking about where you live. Now you're going to have to start thinking about traveling for your health care. Now you're going to have to start thinking about how we stop this from eroding more rights, because that's where this is going. There are any number of now subsequent rights for other groups of people that become moot points. All they need to do is start what they started with Roe v. Wade, which was chipping away at this state by state by state by state by state. That's all they need to start doing with, I'm going to give you the first one, gay marriage. Argued along the same lines as Roe v. Wade. When Roe v. Wade falls, that is now called into question. All of that is, okay? You need to understand this. Contraception. They're already discussing in certain states cutting back funding for contraception. That's where this all starts. That's where it all started with abortion. It started with the Hyde Amendment, which meant that you couldn't use any federal funds to perform abortions. So the people who are telling you that, Planned Parenthood does nothing but perform abortions is lying to you. All right? They're lying to you. Somewhere along the lines of about 12% of what Planned Parenthood does is related to abortions. And the statistics they're throwing around out there are ridiculous. It would necessitate women having abortion every year for those statistics to be true. So let's talk about, some people listen to pundits. I don't. Some people listen to religious leaders. I don't. Some people listen to talking heads. I don't. I didn't hear, or see anybody like Chris Hedges or Lee Camp or any of the other mostly male pundits in America warning people about Roe v. Wade, because quite frankly, they don't give a damn about Roe v. Wade. What they give a damn about are the hits, okay? So let's talk about, I listen to civil libertarians. That's what I listen to. I listen to people who understand where this is going and where this is going to take us. So let me tell you what the civil libertarians have identified as the next great frontier for the Christian right in this country and the right wing, aside from the fact that they are, I'm going to tell you right now, the Christian right is driving the destruction of the public school system. We'll talk about that in another video, but I'm putting bugs in your ears right now because you really do need to understand what's going on in this country, okay? Let's talk about it. There are 3 major civil liberties that are going to be a problem for Americans. Contraception is number 1 on the civil libertarians list. Like everything else, the Supreme Court's ruling in Griswold versus Connecticut was a right to privacy decision. It happened 8 years before Roe v. Wade. It struck down a Connecticut law forbidding the use of contraception by marriage couples. So think about this. They now want to tell you and potentially put back into law that married people cannot use contraception. Understand what I'm saying here. It's called forced birth, okay? And you should understand that many of the laws that are being passed on a state-by-state level do not have provisions for rape and incest, which means not only are women going to be forced to carry those children, but there are children who are raped every day in America. And you're going to force children to carry babies now? We should be looking at this as an opportunity. That was again echoed in the hallowed halls by a Christian right person. Do you understand what's going on here? Wake the fuck up. You've been walking around in a somnambulant mood for so long that you don't even see it. This has been coming for decades. You know, it's almost been so slow that you missed it because you didn't pay attention to the signs. And then when you did, like back in 2016, you had brilliant, genius women like Danielle St. John telling you that this whole Roe v. Wade thing was just a distraction to keep you away from the truth, which is what? The New World Order. You're living the fucking New World Order. They're already talking about, in some states, you know, the more ass-backward states, preventing married women from using contraception. That's the first one. Now, who brought this up? Well, although Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a great proponent of women's rights and of the right to choose and gay marriage, she felt as though they were being argued on the wrong precedent, that it shouldn't have been based on privacy, you know, an invasion of privacy. It should have been based on gender equality. But that's been another battle across America, okay? Gender equality is not here, okay? And this is why this is happening. But the women, certain women, as we were growing up, didn't fight hard enough for gender equality because, you know, Roe v. Wade was decided in 1973. We have had the Equal Rights Amendment banging around Washington for I don't know how many decades now. All right? So contraception is a problem. You people need to understand what's going on here. You know, it may not start with outright banning of contraception, but here's how they do this. They make it difficult for certain groups of people to get contraception. Just like they did with making it difficult for people to get abortions. They put roadblocks in your way to the point where it gets to somewhere where you challenge it in the Supreme Court. If someone does that now with contraception, it's a dead game if they overturn Roe v. Wade. You need to understand this, all right? That's number one. Number two, gay rights in general. All argued on privacy. It says right here in this article, I'm going to read this part to you. Eliotto's draft opinion is alarming, not only because of his views on abortion, but also because of his views on gay rights. And he specifically mentioned two Supreme Court rulings other than Roe that he believes were wrongly decided. Lawrence versus Texas in 2003 and Obergefell versus Hodges in 2015. Does anyone remember what the 2003 argument was? Striking down sodomy laws. You don't think the Christian right wants to go back to sodomy laws? You're out of your fucking minds. They certainly do. They certainly do. They have certainly openly made those statements. 2015, does anyone understand what 2015 was? Does anyone remember? That was the year the same-sex marriage was approved by the Supreme Court, and it was argued along the same lines as Roe v. Wade. Understand what's going on here, okay? And for the women who are saying that it's not fair to blame Christians, it most certainly is. Absolutely, most certainly is. And the real big problem here is there is no place for religion in government. There's no place for religion in the Supreme Court. There's no place for religion in the halls of Congress. There is no right to a prayer breakfast. None of these people, by the way, who are seeking to overturn the rights of millions of people in this country should be praying to anybody because they're fucking evil. Number 3. Interracial marriage. Anyone remember that battle? Probably not, but I certainly do. The 1967 ruling in Loving versus Virginia, Mildred Loving, an African-American woman, and her white husband, Richard Loving, were sentenced to a year in prison for getting married. Does anyone understand that that was only 1967? 1967. We're going backwards, folks. I have got to tell you, It may not happen this year. It may not happen next year. But they can use Aliota's ruling to overturn all of these. All of these now become fodder for the Christian right and for the far-right radicals in this country. And if you don't think they won't team up to have this done, you're crazy, because that's what they did with Roe v. Wade. That's exactly what they did. Anybody who's been bothering to track them and follow them understands this. People need to understand what's going on here. Next up, folks, Gilead. If you think any of these people have any respect for women, you're out of your minds, okay? Susan Collins out there whining about how she was betrayed by Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, who said they wouldn't do this. Oh, really? That's like asking a rattlesnake to become a vegetarian. Give me a break, folks. Okay? Give me a fucking break. What is it that you don't get? Now, I'm looking at our event in Boston, all right? I'm looking at our event in Boston. We got 6 people attending. Do you think 6 people is going to make any difference anywhere at any time? And please, I understand this is only the first go-around, but if you're in an area where you don't seem to see anything going on, start something. Start something. That's what we did. We stuck it on Facebook. We're promoting it on Twitter. Start something. We're contacting people on Facebook that we know live in the area. This is how this stuff starts. You can't wait for it to happen. You've got to make it happen. Look, there are things that you're just going to have to face, okay? First of all, I'm here to tell you, after having fallen in that trap, that the notion that you should sit back and just let this stuff unfold is over. You need to listen, I'm going to say this to Barack Obama, who is telling you can't sit this election out. You can't sit it out in the midterms. You can't sit it out in 2024. If indeed the right wing takes power, even just in 2022, with Joe Biden still in office, you will see such obstruction, nothing will happen. And in fact, they will continue their agenda without Donald Trump to become more virulent on the legislative forefront. They have passed so many fucking laws to disenfranchise people of color from voting, gay people from voting. They have passed so many laws that make teachers totally ineffective and afraid. We're not even teaching. Martin Luther King has been removed from certain school districts. They're taking books out of libraries. They want your children growing up with closed minds so that they only know one way, and that's their way. And you need to understand that. If you don't think that they will go and outlaw interracial marriage in this country, these are people who firmly believe that this is a white Christian nation. And they are goddamn hell-bent on shoving that down your throat, whether you want to face it or not. What am I telling you have to do? You need to get rid of the Republican governors. You need to turn your state blue. And you need to forget the notion that you can support a less virulent member of the GOP, because right now, Donald Trump endorsed 55 candidates for the midterms, and they all won. They are voting, and you need to get it. They never not vote the right wing. They always fucking vote. You need to vote in the midterms. You need to vote out the extremists. You need to vote Democrat. You know, I know people don't want to hear that, but I'm going to tell you this. You need to vote Democrat, because they are at least out there fighting to stop this from happening. Now, they may not have the power to do that because, once again, I'll say it, the Supreme Court was stacked by Donald Trump. He put in three highly conservative justices. It is not the Democrats stacking the Supreme Court. That's what the right is telling you. And you're parroting that bullshit. It is the It is the right who is stacked, not the left. I'm sorry. They've been telling you the left and the Democrats want to stack the Supreme Court. They've already stacked the Supreme Court. It is now what it's going to be for a very long time. You know, these people have lifetime appointments. I want you to take a look at how old Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, and Neil Gorsuch are. I want you to understand that. And they have vowed to block the next justice that is suggested by Joe Biden. They are already planning on not allowing it. They're telling you this right from their mouths, okay? The politicians in the GOP have already said this. You need to get a fucking clue. You need to get a clue. You need to vote Democrat. You need to vote Democratic governors in, and you need to vote Democrat in the major election. I've got to tell you, if you allow any member of the Republican Party, whether it's Donald Trump or not, the slim pickings out there, who's looking at running? I hear Nikki Haley, another religious fanatic, and she actually is. I hear Greg Abbott. Take a look at what he's done to Texas. Ron DeSantis, take a look at what he did to the sinkhole state. Florida is like right-wing haven. It is a test drive for authoritarian rule. You know, understand what's going on here. We have a new website coming out. I'm not going to be shy about promoting it because you're going to see exactly what's going on in this country. And if you can't recognize this with everything pulled together, you know, I understand that on social media you see little things in bits and pieces. If you can't take a look at this website and understand what's going on in this country, I can't help anybody anymore, okay? I might as well just head for the hills and retreat. You need to understand what you need to do, and you need to start promoting it. You need to start pushing all of this. You need to start, you know, ignoring the right-wing voices on Facebook. The people out there telling you the truckers are fighting for your freedom, they haven't accomplished a goddamn thing. Except they're grifting off people, okay? They're making tons of money and grifting off the public. Now they're moving on to Idaho so they can irritate a few more people. But they have any of your rights. Tyranny in America is not defined by masks and mandates. That's called public health. Tyranny in America is overturning Roe v. Wade. Tyranny in America is telling people, one entire group of people, people of color, that slavery didn't really happen. We worry about what the little snowflakey white children might be feeling if they feel an ounce of empathy for anybody. We're worried about that being permanently damaging to them. But we're not worried about the fact that we're taking an entire race of people and telling them none of that happened. It was all in your imagination. We're just going to ignore that. We have a nation full of people who think that white man discovered America. He did not discover America. There were people here before. No matter what Rick Santorum tells you, that there was no culture here before, that's pure bullshit. The white man brought all the problems to America. Christopher Columbus wasn't a hero. He was a fucking shitbag, genocidal maniac, working for the Queen of Spain and her husband. He is not an American. He was Italian. Duh. Cristoforo Colombo was his real name. We Americanized him here with the history books. He became Christopher Columbus magically in this land. You need to vote Democrat. You need to not sit on the sidelines. You need to stop and you need to think. And you need to understand that this can't just be one day of marching through the streets. And then we all go back into our homes and pretend nothing's going to happen, like that's going to have an effect on anybody. You need to contact your legislature. You need to make sure they understand you're unhappy with all of this. It takes work. But this is how they got Roe v. Wade overturned. It wasn't just Ron DeSantis waking up one day. It wasn't just the leaders in Mississippi deciding one day to pass that law that somebody finally challenged, and that's what is the basis of the Supreme Court ruling. People pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And I'm telling you how it happened. And when all of the tale is told on this abortion thing, we will add a section to the website so you understand how it happened and the origins of where the push came from and how long it has been going on. Wake up, people. This is the time. In fact, I think you're a little late. We tried to get this done last year. Sarah and I were standing out there in the heat in Boston trying to get people to join us. One day we had 7 people. Next time out, just me and her and one other person. Ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen, folks. You might as well stay the fuck home. I'll talk to you all later. Hi, gang. I'm back again. Forgive me. It's a little early. It's 6:52 here. Let me just say one other thing. It's great that you flock into the Facebook group now. Okay, but that Facebook group has been up for over a year. I have to say this. It's great for you to vent your frustrations on Facebook. You know, people love to post as if that's activism. Posting on Facebook changes nothing. What Facebook should be used for is to mobilize, to organize. It's an organization tool. It is not a tool of activism. The people are tools of activism. The people need to do the work. Okay? Nobody on the Supreme Court, nobody in the hallowed halls of Congress are monitoring the Roe v. Wade group. They're not monitoring any group. Okay? People who think that Facebook is employing millions of people to ban you, they're using algorithms. Nobody is taking their cue from social media. Okay? Social media is there to make you feel good. So you can bitch and moan and complain and whine and snivel. All right? That's all you're really doing. That's all I'm really doing, unless you do something more with what you've got. Posting on Facebook and Twitter accomplishes nothing. You need to understand this. All it is doing, well, I shouldn't say it's not doing anything for the right, because they've managed to post incessantly to the point where they've brainwashed half of America into believing the shit that they're saying. So maybe you ought to try countering that. Maybe you ought to try addressing them directly and debunking them instead of sharing their bullshit as if it's the fucking font of all truth, because nothing that the right is telling you is actually true. Okay? It's all steeped in conspiracy and lunacy. You need to take this elsewhere than social media, is what I'm trying to tell you. You need to understand that. Use it to organize, but take it somewhere else. Don't worry about what they're doing in Austin, Texas. Don't worry about if there's a protest in Sarasota Springs, Florida. Make one happen. I'll talk to you later.